stop what you're doing. Because Drake has just committed what might be the single biggest mistake of his entire career. Fans cannot believe what just went down. The internet is in shock. Social media is flooded with outrage. And even some of Drake's most loyal supporters are saying this might be the one move he'll never recover from. This isn't just about a bad lyric, a missed concert, or a shady rumor. No. This is much bigger. We're talking about a decision so reckless, so out of touch, that it could permanently stain his reputation and shift the balance of power in hip-hop forever. Insiders are already calling it career suicide. Blogs are exploding with theories, and fans are demanding answers. Was this Drake's ego finally catching up to him? Was it arrogance? Or was it something darker, a desperate gamble that backfired spectacularly? But here's where it gets even wilder. The fallout isn't just embarrassing, it's dangerous. We're talking leaked footage, furious fans, celebrity clapbacks, and whispers of betrayal inside Drake's own camp. This isn't a small misstep. This isn't a small misstep, this is a full-on disaster unfolding in real time. So buckle up, because once you hear what Drake did, you'll understand why the internet is calling this the biggest mistake of his career, and why it may already be too late to fix it. To understand why this moment feels so catastrophic for Drake, we need to rewind. Because this wasn't just one slip-up. This was the result of years of building, battling, and balancing on a razor's edge of fame, ego, and power. Drake has spent over a decade cementing himself as one of the most dominant forces in hip-hop history. From So Far Gone to Take Care, from Nothing Was the Same to Views, every project became a cultural event. He wasn't just a rapper, he was the chart-dominating, meme-generating, stadium-selling icon who managed to stay untouchable while his rivals fell one by one. But with dominance comes danger. And Drake has always played with fire. Remember the feud with Meek Mill that nearly buried him until Drake flipped it into one of the most legendary comebacks in hip-hop history. Then there was the quiet tension with Kanye, the icy distance with Jay-Z, and most recently, the full-scale lyrical war with Kendrick Lamar that left fans questioning whether Drake was truly invincible anymore. Through it all, Drake built his brand not just on music, but on the illusion of perfection. He was the rapper who couldn't miss, the artist who always stayed one step ahead of the culture. Even when scandals hit, rumors about ghostwriters, industry politics, messy relationships, he spun them into gold, making himself the topic of conversation without ever fully falling off. But here's the thing. When you live at the top for too long, every single move becomes a gamble. One wrong step isn't just a mistake, it's a potential collapse. And Drake has been skating dangerously close to that line for years. Insiders have whispered for months that the pressure was getting to him. The constant competition, the need to outdo himself, the paranoia about staying relevant as younger artists like Lil Baby, J. Cole, and even his own former protégés began to rise. Then came the public humiliation from Kendrick's lyrical assault tracks that painted Drake as insecure, fake, and fragile under the glitz. For the first time, the Sixth God looked shaky, and that's exactly why this moment feels so inevitable. The mistake Drake just made didn't come out of nowhere, it was years of ego, years of risky moves, years of ignoring the cracks in the armor. To the public, Drake has always projected control. He controls the narrative, the charts, the culture. But behind the curtain, his empire has been wobbling. Sources close to OVO have whispered about growing frustration in his team about deals gone wrong, collaborations falling apart, and even his fan base beginning to split into defenders and doubters. And now, with this latest decision, whatever motivated it, whether arrogance, carelessness, or desperation, it feels like the dam has finally broken. Fans aren't just shocked, they're questioning him. And in Drake's world, that's the one thing he's never been able to allow: doubt. Because here's the truth, Drake's power has always rested on more than just music. It's been about the illusion of flawlessness. That every release would be a hit, every verse a meme, every move a calculated flex. The moment that illusion cracks, the empire is vulnerable, and right now, after this blunder, fans aren't just stunned. They're calling it the biggest mistake of Drake's career. But what exactly happened? What was the decision that spiraled into a nightmare? That's where the story takes a turn. Because once we dive into the major conflict, the betrayal, the leaked messages, and the explosive fallout, you'll see why fans are saying Drake may never recover from this. The bombshell moment arrived, not in a song, not in an interview, but in a move so reckless it instantly set the internet ablaze. Drake Meister, strategic. Mr. Calculated made the single biggest miscalculation of his career, and this time, there was no coming back with a clever Instagram caption or a chart-topping rebuttal. It all started when Drake announced his surprise rollout for what was supposed to be his most ambitious project yet. The promo teased something groundbreaking, something that would silence his critics once and for all. But instead of delivering a masterpiece, what fans got was a shocking mess that exposed everything they feared about him: arrogance, desperation, and carelessness. According to insiders, Drake ignored his team's warnings and went all in on a controversial collab partnering with an artist who is currently facing massive industry backlash. The reveal hit like a thunderclap. Fans didn't just groan, they exploded. Twitter flooded with comments like, "Drake really thought this was a good idea. Career suicide. Of all people to collab with, why him?" Drake's lost it. And just when people were still reeling from the collab reveal, the nightmare deepened. Hours before the official release, leaks began to surface, whole tracks spreading across social media with lyrics that left fans horrified. In one leaked verse, Drake allegedly threw shade not just at rivals, but at fans themselves, mocking those who doubted him during the Kendrick feud. "Y'all still streaming while complaining truth is you need me more than I need you." The arrogance in the line sparked fury. Fans felt insulted, betrayed. Even some of his die-hard stans admitted it sounded like Drake was spitting in the faces of the very people who built his empire. And then the first twist. Screenshots surfaced of private group chats, allegedly between Drake's own OVO team. In those messages, members of his camp supposedly begged him not to release the project in its current form. One chilling line from an OVO insider read, "Bro, this ain't it. The backlash will be nuclear. Please don't do this." But Drake's alleged reply, "They'll eat it up. They always do." That single sentence hit like a dagger. Fans felt exposed, manipulated, played. The idea that Drake viewed them not as a loyal community, but as guaranteed consumers was the ultimate betrayal. The man who built his career on relatability had just admitted, at least in their eyes, that he saw them as nothing more than numbers. Social media turned into a war zone. Hashtags like #DrakeIsOverParty, #BiggestFlop, and #ArrogantAubrey trended worldwide. YouTubers dropped reaction videos titled "The Fall of Drake," "How the Six God Lost the Streets," and "Drake's Worst Decision Ever." Even worse, industry peers started weighing in. Rumors swirled that major collaborators had quietly pulled out of deals, not wanting to be tied to the fallout. But the most brutal blow came from the fans themselves. Spotify and Apple Music data leaked, showing that streams of the leaked tracks were tanking compared to his past rollouts. For the first time in years, Drake wasn't dominating, he was free-falling. And here's the kicker. Kendrick Lamar's name started trending alongside the chaos, with fans pointing out how Drake's mistake proved Kendrick's accusations right. Memes spread like wildfire, side-by-side comparisons of Kendrick calling Drake fake and Drake's fans now calling him arrogant. The timing was devastating. But if you thought the disaster ended there, you'd be wrong. Because the deeper the internet dug, the more dirt surfaced. Alleged emails leaked showing that Drake's controversial collaborator wasn't just a business move, it was personal. Drake had reportedly promised this partnership months ago as a middle finger to the industry. It wasn't just carelessness. It was a deliberate act of defiance that backfired catastrophically. And now, the narrative had flipped completely. Drake wasn't just a superstar who made a bad decision. He was an out-of-touch giant whose ego had finally caught up with him. The question wasn't, can Drake recover anymore? The question was, is this the beginning of the end? But trust me, the next escalation takes this to levels nobody imagined, because the fallout isn't just online. It's spreading into the industry itself, pulling in rappers, producers, and even former allies who are now turning their backs on Drake in the most public way possible. If fans thought Drake's disastrous rollout was the end of the storm, they were dead wrong. The chaos was only just beginning. The escalation that followed turned one mistake into a full-blown industry crisis. First came the betrayals. Within days of the backlash, word spread that some of Drake's most trusted collaborators had quietly distanced themselves from him. A-list producers allegedly pulled out of projects. One major feature, rumored to be from a top-tier female rapper, vanished from the album tracklist without explanation. Fans quickly pieced together that she didn't want to be tied to the fallout. And when insiders leaked that certain sponsors were reconsidering their partnerships with OVO, the picture became clear. Drake's mistake wasn't just embarrassing, was costing him real industry power. Then came the celebrity reactions. Kanye West, never one to miss a chance to jab, posted a cryptic message. Funny how the throne gets heavy when you ain't built for it. Fans instantly tied it to Drake's meltdown. Memes comparing Kendrick's ruthless precision to Drake's clumsy blunder flooded the internet. Even rappers who usually stay neutral couldn't resist subtle shade. J. Cole reposted a quote on Instagram: "Your biggest enemy is your own ego." The timing was too perfect to be coincidence, but the most brutal reaction came from Drake's own fans. Some of his biggest stan accounts pages that had worshipped him for years suddenly flipped, posting threads titled, "Why We Can't Defend Drake Anymore and the Downfall of the Sixth God." 4. An artist whose empire was built on loyal supporters. This was catastrophic. And then came the shocking reveal that flipped everything upside down. A well-known hip-hop blog dropped what they claimed were leaked internal OVO documents. These files allegedly showed that Drake's controversial collab wasn't just a creative decision, it was financially motivated. According to the leak, OVO had been struggling with declining revenue streams, and Drake had pushed the collab as a way to reignite hype and secure international brand deals. If true, this meant Drake's biggest mistake wasn't just about ego, it was about desperation. The superstar who once sat on top of the world was allegedly scrambling to keep his empire afloat. Fans were stunned. For years, Drake projected invincibility, wealth, and dominance. But these leaks painted him as vulnerable, chasing deals to maintain relevance. One viral tweet summed it up perfectly. Drake went from sixth god to sixth fraud. This ain't the champ move we expected. The damage was irreparable. Late-night hosts cracked jokes about Drake selling out. TikTokers made parody skits of OVO meetings where his team begged him not to sabotage himself, and the memes comparing him to Fallen. Icons of the past artists who had flown close to the sun spread like wildfire. But the escalation didn't stop there. Another wave of leaks hit the internet this time. Alleged voice notes. In them, a voice sounding eerily like Drake vented to a close confidant. "They think I'm untouchable. They don't realize I made this whole game. If they hate it, they'll still play it. They need me more than I need them. The arrogance in the clip fueled even more backlash. Fans felt mocked, manipulated, and dismissed. Whether real or fake, the recording cemented the image of a Drake completely detached from his audience. And just when it looked like Drake had lost control of the narrative, the final blow of this chapter landed. Spotify data revealed that streams of his new material had dropped by nearly 40% compared to his last release. For an artist who prided himself on being the undisputed streaming king, this was humiliating. The escalation was undeniable. Drake's mistake wasn't just a slip-up, it was a chain reaction that exposed his vulnerabilities, alienated his fans, and put cracks in the foundation of his empire. And the cliffhanger. Rumors began swirling that Kendrick Lamar, Drake's fiercest rival, was preparing to drop another diss track, one that would capitalize on Drake's weakest moment yet. If that track drops while Drake is still reeling from this fiasco, it won't just be a blow. It could be the finishing move. The backlash didn't just ripple across social media, it detonated like a cultural bomb. Drake's mistake wasn't staying inside the hip-hop bubble anymore. It was everywhere: headlines, talk shows, Twitter spaces, even political commentators weighing in on what it meant for one of the biggest stars of our generation to fall this hard, this fast. On Twitter, the war lines were drawn in neon. Hashtags like #DrakeIsOverParty, #BiggestMistake, and #6 Got Down trended for days. One viral thread that clocked in at over 1 million views read, "Drake thought he was untouchable. But the truth is, the fans made him. And now the fans are the ones tearing him down." Replies lit up the timeline. This ain't even hate. It's disappointment. We grew up with him, and now he's spitting on us. He's rich, he'll survive. But his reputation. Done, Kendrick tried to tell us. We didn't listen. TikTok exploded with edits. Old clips of Drake laughing during interviews were paired with captions like, "When you think you can't flop," before cutting to screenshots of plummeting streams. Some creators stitched leaked lyrics and compared them to Kendrick's disses, arguing that Drake had unintentionally proven every accusation right. The humiliation wasn't private heat, was being memed into cultural memory. Meanwhile, Instagram became a battleground. Drake's comment section turned toxic overnight. His posts, once flooded with adoration, were now filled with snake emojis, clown memes, and angry essays from fans who felt betrayed. His silence only made it worse. For every day Drake didn't respond, the narrative hardened that he wasn't just wrong. He was weak, but the reactions that really stung came from within the industry. Rick Ross, longtime collaborator turned frenemy, dropped a subtle but brutal Instagram live. "See, when you get too big, you stop listening. And when you stop listening, you stop learning. That's when the downfall begins." Meek Mill, who once lost one of hip-hop's ugliest battles to Drake, tweeted cryptically, "Tables always turn." Even more shocking, Rihanna, whose complicated history with Drake has always fascinated fans, liked a tweet dragging him for arrogance. That single tap sent her fanbase into overdrive, with thousands declaring Rihanna had officially washed her hands of Drake. The industry wasn't just watching. It was circling. Media outlets piled on. Rolling Stone ran with the headline, "Did Drake just end his own legacy?" Billboard asked, "The Six Gods Fall. Is this Drake's biggest misstep ever?" Even CNN touched the story in a cultural segment about celebrity invincibility and public accountability, and then came the fans who refused to abandon him. Loyalists formed their own counter hashtag, #ForeverDrake, arguing that the hate was overblown and fueled by jealousy. One defender tweeted, "Every legend goes through a rough patch. Y'all acting like he hasn't carried the game for over a decade." Drake will bounce back, but even their optimism was drowned out by the sheer volume of mockery, criticism, and disappointment. The split became cultural. For some, Drake's mistake was a betrayal they couldn't forgive. For others, it was just another chapter in the saga of a complicated superstar. But for all, it was undeniable. The aura of invincibility around Drake had cracked, and the memes. They were relentless, but the most chilling reactions came from insiders. Whisper networks buzzed with talk that brands were backing away, sponsors were hesitant, and even members of Drake's own team were looking for the exit. The mistake hadn't just cost him clout, it was threatening the foundation of his empire. And then, just when fans thought the drama had peaked, whispers surfaced about a final twist, one so devastating it could turn this mistake from a disaster into a career-ending catastrophe. Just when it seemed the backlash had peaked, the story took a nuclear turn. Drake's biggest mistake went from a career blunder to a scandal that could define the rest of his legacy. The twist left even his most loyal fans speechless. It began with whispers. Industry insiders teased that a major leak was about to hit the internet. Something far worse than the failed collab or the arrogant voice notes. For 24 hours, fans refreshed their timelines like vultures, waiting for the shoe to drop. And when it did, the explosion was louder than anyone imagined. A notorious gossip blog dropped what they claimed were internal OVO financial reports. The documents, though unverified, painted a shocking picture. Drake wasn't just making a risky creative choice, he was allegedly covering up deep cracks in his empire. The reports hinted at plummeting merch sales, canceled tour dates quietly refunded, and declining investments in his OVO label. To fans, this wasn't just a mistake anymore. It looked like desperation, and then came the cliffhanger nobody expected. The leak also included an alleged contract between Drake and his controversial collaborator, showing that the deal wasn't about music. Elite was tied to a multi-million-dollar branding agreement that directly contradicted everything Drake had built his image on. If true, it wasn't just hypocrisy. It was betrayal on a massive scale. The fallout was immediate. Fans felt deceived, used. Memes turned darker, painting Drake not just as arrogant, but as a sellout. Twitter threads accused him of selling his soul to stay relevant. Even worse, celebrities began openly distancing themselves. One R&B star posted a cryptic tweet, "Never compromise your art for a check." Some lessons ain't worth learning. Fans immediately connected the dots, but the deadliest blow. A rumor began to swirl that Kendrick Lamar, Drake's fiercest rival, was preparing to drop another diss, this time aimed directly at the fallout from the biggest mistake. Imagine it? Kendrick, already crowned by many as the victor of their feud, swooping in to finish Drake at his weakest moment. Fans braced for blood. The internet was left with one haunting question. If Kendrick fires again while Drake is drowning, could it mark the official end of Drake's reign? And that's where the cliffhanger leaves us, Drake's empire shaking. His fans divided, the industry watching like sharks circling in the water. One mistake spiraled into a cultural crisis, and the next move, whether from Drake or Kendrick, could change hip-hop forever. This isn't the conclusion. It's the prelude to the next war. And that, right there, is where things stand. Drake, the man once seen as untouchable, is now cornered by the very machine he built. His biggest mistake has spiraled into a storm of leaks, betrayals, and humiliations that even he can't spin away with a catchy hook. But the real question isn't whether Drake messed up, we all see that. The question is, can he recover? Do you believe Drake has one more move left in him? A comeback track that could silence every critic and reclaim his crown? Or do you think this mistake is the nail in the coffin that his arrogance, his miscalculation, and his desperation finally destroyed the invincible image he's carried for over a decade? Drop your thoughts below, because this debate isn't just about Drake, it's about the culture. And let's talk about that culture. What does this moment say about hip-hop? About fame? About how quickly fans can flip from worship to wrath? One day, Drake was the sixth god, the man who never missed. The next day, he's being memed as the biggest flop of the decade. Do you think the fans went too far, or did Drake bring this all on himself? And here's the most chilling part: rumors are swirling that Kendrick Lamar is preparing to strike again. Imagine what happens if Kendrick drops another diss right now while Drake is bleeding in front of the world. Do you think it would finish him for good? Or could it force him into the fight of his life? This is where you come in. I want you to flood the comments with your theories. What do you think the final twist really means? Was Drake desperate to secure brand deals because his empire is cracking? Were those leaks real or manufactured? And if Kendrick really drops against whose side, will you be on? Don't just watch this story, be part of it. Like this video if you believe Drake's downfall is real. Share it with your friends who swore he could never flop. And most importantly, hit that subscribe button and turn on your notifications, because this isn't over. The next chapter is already being written, and you'll want to be here the moment it drops, because whether you love him or hate him, one truth remains: Drake's biggest mistake has changed hip-hop forever. The only question now is whether it's the beginning of the end or the beginning of his most shocking comeback yet. Stay tuned. The culture war is just getting started.